Hello, YouTube. Welcome to Bottom of the Smash Mountain, a podcast focused around Melee, hosted by Jesse Wall, a.k.a. Cypher, a.k.a. me. That's me talking. Yes, that's right. I am the host of this whole thing, and I am the one who is trying to upload all the interviews I've ever done on my podcast onto YouTube. I am aware of how much access YouTube may or may not provide. Hopefully a lot for those of you who are more YouTube-focused platform users. Maybe you don't like listening to podcasts on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts or Podcast Addict or Podbean or many of the other podcasting platforms. There's apparently more than just 3. The point is that if you don't want to listen to a podcast but you want to watch a video of a picture, maybe have it in a separate tab while you continue to browse the internet, now you can do it through YouTube. So hope you continue to listen, and thanks for watching. Here we are, bottom of the Smash Mountain, and today I'm so happy to be joined by NathanSandwich, who does all kinds of things within the Melee sphere, hopefully all of which we're going to be able to get into. Nathan, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to join along.
And I feel the first thing that we have to say is that we were both able to listen. I got to record, I should say. You got to listen to the episode with Brandon, Shiggles, and Jade for the Rollback Rumble team, but they were definitely quick to give you shout-outs and love, and I got to read some of the nice things you had to say about them back to them that they live reacted to on that podcast episode, because you actually help with Rollback Rumble events, and I just want to make sure that we're all clear here in the sense of you definitely contributing in times where Brandon or Jade, especially during the TO side of things on a particular event or what have you, if they have to step out, they'd trust you to step in and to sort of handle things while they're out and then coming back in, all that kind of stuff. You do so much for Rollback Rumble, so I wanted to start off with that and say it's super cool because I love the Rollback Rumble series and you make it hum. So thank you, Nathan.
That's very, very kind words. They're just wonderful people. I think that's the first thing I could say. I mean, I think what I wrote. I mean, I wrote that basically just straight from the heart. I mean, I just can't really say enough. You know, they've treated me with such great things too, and allow me to grow. So I mean, it's just one of the many reasons why I stick around. I'm still trying to process the words just at the moment too, because they mean a lot to me too. I mean, it's definitely something we'll dive into detail, but it's just they mean a lot, and I'm blessed.
So before we continue to dive more into present day things, I am very excited to hear about the origin story with you in Melee, how you first got in, and how Melee gave you that tug in the heart. So you want to start back at the beginning for you in Melee?
Oh boy, yeah, definitely. I mean, I grew up playing Melee, actually. I mean, just casually. I think I got Melee maybe when I was 5 or 6 years old or something like that. I mean, around 2004, 2005. I played with my brother casually for a long period of time. I still actually do have that same GameCube too, with my same copy of Melee to this day. But I played casually with my brother. We go back and forth, and just casual matches too. We both liked Link when we played, and we would do Link Dittos or Link versus Young Link. I liked playing Mario casually as well. I was definitely a completionist type of kid too, so I tried to get all the trophies, get all the achievements or whatever, all the notices, beat all the events, beat classic mode on the hardest difficulty, all that stuff. I was definitely kind of just your average completionist, casual gamer when it came to Melee. But as far as competitive Melee goes, I would say around 2012. And I think I was about 13 or 14 at the time. I had a vague sort of idea of what Melee was, but I didn't really think too much into it. I think I saw some sort of Melee set. I want to say it may have been actually Revival and Melee match 4 between Mewtwo King and Deshizwiz. I want to say I could be wrong about that. But I saw a set too, and I saw how they were moving. They were doing way dashes and stuff like that, way dashes out of shield. I was like, oh my god, are these guys hacking the game, or what is this? That was my first thought when it came to mind. And when I didn't really think too much about it at the time. I tried learning to do those things they were doing on screen to not really successfully. But it wasn't really until 2014 when I found out about Smashboards that I found out about competitive Melee. It was actually interesting too because I actually didn't find out Melee through the documentary. I found it through Smashboards first because I just wasn't really in a good state of mind as a person, in 2014, in my sophomore year of high school, the typical high school blues or whatever, just figuring out your social life. And I wasn't really happy just as a person, I'll be honest. And I just thought on a whim, I had wanted, my brother always had beaten me in Melee a lot of times. And I was like, what, I just want to find, I guess I'll just figure out how to beat my brother out. I just kind of just did it, it's that sibling rivalry sort of thing. And I found out about Smashboards, and I found the 2006 YouTube video, Advanced How to Play by Whack. And it showed wave dashing, L canceling, your basic advanced techniques when it came to Melee. And I learned that stuff, on an LCD TV, which is surprising. I didn't actually get a CRT until a year later. But I learned that, and I found out in my junior year, at the beginning of my junior year of high school, that there was a video game club, or a gaming club. And my best friend from high school, who I met at the time, Malcolm, Brandon, Homemade Waffles knows who that is too. Malcolm, he goes by... It used to go by the tag, mainly by the tag Rapid, but I think he goes by Wacko Master 9 now. But he's changed the tag multiple times. But shouts to Malcolm. He was the president and runner of the gaming club, and he also played Melee as well. And we had kind of this small group of folks that kind of started kind of getting into the scene a bit. We started playing each other just at the video game club during lunch breaks, and then after schools when we'd hold meetings there, or after we'd hold meetings, we'd go and play Melee afterwards. And then we found out actually about tournaments. Malcolm found out about a tournament, SSBM Trial 2, which does actually tie into what I mentioned in my entry with Brandon Homemade Waffles. So that was actually my first tournament. We found out about that, and it was September 2014 when it happened. We found out I had vaguely known of the Melee community at the time, or some of the folks involved. I knew about, I think, Shroomed at the time, Dewan, and then I knew about Homemade Waffles, Brandon at the time too, because he was the voice of the Wombo combo too, because that was viral on the internet. Well, let's be honest, that was definitely viral on the internet. But I knew about him and a couple other folks, and so when we went to the tournament too, I was a 16-year-old kid at the time, just didn't really know what I was getting into. It was oh, it's a tournament, I'll just go there, my friends are going. And it was a great experience. It went so much better than I expected, and a lot of people were really nice. It was neat because it was kind of a semi-formal sort of tournament, so we all dressed really nicely too. I got to talk to, the folks that really that made a really good first impression on this community and feeling like I'd feel welcomed was actually PPU, Kevin Toy, PPU, Suzaria, Susie, and Shroomed, Dewan himself. We, those are the main three, that when I talked to, just throughout the tournament too, and they were just really, really nice. We talked, for a good, I don't know, just maybe a brief 20 minutes. I was just, I just was kind of, just figuring out what's up, but it made me feel really welcome that literally, I got a nice experience from the best of the best. And then I briefly bumped into Brandon too, Homemade Waffles, along the way too. I think towards the end of the tournament, I think we said hi, and I was I probably said something about the Wobble combo or whatever. Something just it's something probably just it's something goofy or whatever, because I was still kind of like in that fanboy-ish state at the time where I was like, oh my god, this is Homemade Waffles, this big figure in the community, voice of the Wombo combo, whatever, I still had a bit of like that fanboy sense in me, if you should say, but it was really cool, and I had a very nice positive impression, just from that first tournament.
It's amazing to me hearing about how in your first tournament you ran into pretty much every notable NorCal player, it sounds like, except for maybe SFAT. I don't know if I heard SFAT's name mixed in with everybody else there, but that is so cool that your first tournament experience, you're meeting top players and like community figureheads and leaders and that sort of thing, and having a good experience. I'm sure that it's not 100% that way all the time across all regions. It's just that for your story, that's super, super cool. Like, I would have been, well, no, I mean, I was so nervous, I didn't even bother trying to go to a tournament at like the age of 16 or whatever, thinking, oh, I could go to one. But I never went because I was like, I'm just not going to, I just talked myself out of it, more or less. And that's kind of been my story. But it's so cool to hear that you were brave enough to go, that you went, and that you were also given a really, really fun experience, and that it was making you say, okay, so I know where I am with the skill of the game, not where these players are, but they're all really nice, and kind of makes me want to come back. That's what it sounds like to me of what your first tournament experience was like.
Most definitely. I mean, I think this should probably be said for any person that's entered their first tournament. Me and my friend Malcolm and our other folks, I definitely should shout them out. DeAndre, I think he went by Dante Shepard when he used to play Melee. Josue, he went by the tag Dupless, and then my friend Joseph, who went by the tag Be Jealous. And then my friend Jason Amorosis, and then also his brother Nolan, aka Nolo, I believe is he went by. We all had like this impression too, where we were like, oh yeah, we could go and beat these guys or whatever. We had like that sort of vibe going in, because like we're gonna practice really hard, and we're gonna shock the world or whatever. But it was a nice reality check, and I'm glad that I'm glad that like it happened the way it did. It kind of like, it was a good way to bring us down to earth. It's like, oh wait, these folks are actually really darn good at this game, but they're also even better as people.
Oh, that's a great line. That's probably going to go on the Twitter post, actually. Or we'll see. So my first question to you about coming out of that experience, did that motivate you more to be a better player, or did you think to yourself, there's another way that I can fit in here? Or is it really just too much to ask yourself after one tournament? Like, it's really like, I have to go to more of these.
I think just at the time, my 16-year-old self, it was just become a better player. I think it was just like a motivation thing. It's like, oh man, we got absolutely wrecked. I remember I played Alan in pools, NorCal player. I played Alan in pools, round robin pools actually, and I think 1-7 in pools. I won like only one set because I was playing against a player that was just as new as me. I was a Mario main at the time too, because I found him the easiest character to wave dash with. So I just played Mario early on, but I mean that was like the only set I won, is just because we were both just newbies at the time. But like it was just a nice humbling experience, really, and it just motivated me to get better. It's like, oh wait, we have a long ways to go, before we can even consider ourselves, being a threat to even like these sort of folks, or being any sort of competition to them.
So if this is 2014, stuff like 20XX is probably pretty new, that sort of thing. What was your training regimen, if you will, coming back from a tournament like that, and after the first few tournaments? Like, how would you try to get better? Would you try to find people that you could go to people's houses for Smash Fests, that sort of thing? Just consider tournament play your only and best practice method? What was it like for 16-year-old Nathan to try to get better at the game at that time?
I think this is a great lead-in. So actually, I didn't know about like 20XX and such at the time. It was just starting to gain some popularity at the time too. Still, like, not a lot of folks used 20XX, if I remember correctly. It didn't start, like, becoming pretty popular until, like, mid to late 2015, when, like, the Punish game, I would say, like, the Punish game renaissance happened, or I would say, like, the rise of the Punish game happened. So I didn't actually use 20XX much back then. What I actually did is I joined the NorCal Melee Facebook group. I have such a vivid memory of this too. I remember Bobak was the admin that approved me. Shouts to Bobak, absolute Genesis TOing legend. But Bobak approved me to like, you know, as a member of the Facebook page. I made a post about, like, hey, are there any folks in my local area, which is the 925 Melee area, which is like the East Bay area, which is like Concord, Clayton, Walnut Creek, Dublin, etc., etc. I'd say my static, like, one of my static practice partner, Power Kevin, made a comment, and he was like, yeah, you know, do you want us to have a time to play sometime? And I found out he lived literally 5 minutes from my house. My friend Kevin, Power Kevin, he lived 5 minutes from my house, so I went over to his house, and as expected, I got absolutely just rocked, you know, because I was a total beginner. And I think Kevin had been playing for 3 years at that point. I think he joined around 2011, 2012. But I went to his house too, and he gave me, like, a nice just introduction of the local community, just around us. What is it? You know, like, I had seen the documentary at that time. I actually had not seen the documentary before I went to SSBM Trial 2.
Really?
So, like, I actually did not see the documentary before that. I didn't find out about the documentary afterwards.
That's it. Wait, you're just on Smashboards, and somehow how does that happen? Well, you can explain. I just feel like the documentary is like the lead-in. That's the classic around that time, but you didn't watch it until you had already dipped in your toes to your first tournament or two. That's very interesting to me.
It's just, you don't believe it or not, I had seen it on, like, thumbnails here and there, but I'm usually, like, someone that's kind of selective when it comes to, like, consuming just media or whatever. Really, I'm kind of, like, very selective or picky, if that makes sense. I don't know. I have, like, this weird just sort of thing, but, like, I think, you know, after the first tournament, you know, I saw the Smash Bros. Like, you know what, I'll just go and watch this, you know. And it was, you know, it really just kind of hit home with me because it was such a niche, you know. And I think at the end of a quote from the documentary that still sticks out to me today is something Wife said, and it's a chance for us to be somebody, and that's what really hit home with me, because I felt like, you know, my tag initially was N7S at the time, just N7 Silvic, you know, because that was just my first and then my favorite number and last name. But then I thought, like, you know, what would be a good tag? You know, because I was thinking, like, an actual tag. And I actually used to do online sim racing, actually. Like NASCAR Racing 2003 and iRacing. And for some reason or whatever, I think just folks, they gave me the nickname NathanSandwich, I guess, for my driving style or whatever. I don't know. I can't remember off the top of my head. But the NathanSandwich thing just kind of stuck. And I thought, you know what? As kind of like a nod to my sim racing roots, let's just have our tag be just NathanSandwich. You know, I was like, oh, let's be NathanSandwich. And, you know, it's kind of like a neat origin of the tag. And, I mean, it's very interesting of how folks, you know, just like today, as I've gotten more well-known, have played onto the tag. But, you know, it's actually neat how the backstory, you know, kind of emerged, pretty much, I'd say. But, you know, that's what I thought. You know, I was like, you know, I'll be NathanSandwich, you know, and we'll see where it goes from there.
And so I think one way that I could take a stab at guessing your selectiveness with watching stuff on YouTube would have to do with just, like, you find a niche and you sort of stay within that, and it really takes someone just recommending it to you a few times, someone that you like, someone that you would say, oh yeah, I like hanging out with that person. They go, you should listen to this or you should watch this, and you go, okay, maybe I'll check it out, as compared to, like, seeing it pop up on related videos and going, nah, that's not for me.
Yeah, I'm kind of that type of person. Like, if I guess like a play, like if you were to say like right now, just like present day, if you were to ask like Jade would recommend me something, I probably would listen to them 100%. I'm kind of that type of person. Like if it's from like someone that I trust a lot, I probably would check out that source immediately because they usually know like what kind of makes me tick or what's best for me, I guess. Or I wouldn't say what's best for me, but just like, I would like this sort of thing. And that's kind of what I thought with the documentary at the time. Was like, once I had that positive experience of going to my first tournament, I thought, okay, you know what? Let's give this documentary a shot. And that's kind of how it was. I mean, that's kind of how it was.
Who did you relate to most in the doc, or perhaps who did you relate to the most at your first tournament?
It's hard to say for my first tournament because I hadn't seen the documentary yet. And I couldn't really, I was just kind of dipping my feet in, so I couldn't really relate to a lot of folks. It's kind of gone by in a blur from that first tournament. I don't remember. I remember some stories from it, but I can't remember like anyone I specifically related to in particular. But as far as the documentary goes, it would be just Mutaking on more so a personal level, because of like just like some of his like sort of social quirks, however. Because I mean, I'm also like neurodivergent because I have autism as well. And I think he's Mutaking. I mean, I think Mutaking is confirmed like he's had Asperger's or whatever. So I mean, I relate to that on a more like a personal level. So like in a lot of like his entry, and then I would say just like Isaiah's story as well as a Falcon man myself too, and on a more personal side too. I definitely just like can relate to like Isaiah and how like he approached the game or how he approached doubles and such. Really, so those are like the main two that I related to the most. For different reasons, I'd say.
And did watching Isaiah's Falcon in the documentary have anything to do with you going, Mario's not going to be my character anymore? Or what led you to Captain Falcon and landing on that as your main?
It's actually a really funny story, actually. It actually happened because my friend Malcolm Rapid, he was a Fox Marth dual main at the time before he switched to solo maining Fox. But Marth Mario is a horrendous matchup for Mario, to say the least. And I couldn't for the life of me. I was like, man, this sucks. That was just kind of what was going through my mind. I was like, this really sucks. And it was kind of, what would be a character, that'd be fun. And, and I started just kind of, I picked Falcon one day. And I was landing all these knees, and I was like, "Man, this is really fun." And I started beating Malcolm's Marth really consistently, and and this was before, I think like a little bit before Trial 2. So like I had been dabbling with Falcon a bit. I had always liked Falcon because he was a hype character and stuff like that. I always thought he was really cool, but I couldn't wave dash with him for the life of me. So I went to Mario at first. But, when I found out that Marth Mario was, like, an atrocious matchup, and I started doing well with Falcon, I tested the Falcon a bit, in friendlies at SSBM Trial 2, and, I think, like, a little while afterwards, I just started committing more and more time to him. My friend Jason, who goes by the tag Amaurosis, or I believe it's Ama now, I could be wrong, and his younger brother Nolan, that goes by Nolo. They were also the big influences of why I switched to Falcon, because they were both Falcons themselves too. Very stylish Falcons, I'd say that. Jason would hit. He's the one person I know that can hit the sacred combo, knee into Falcon punch, on a consistent basis. I saw this for about the first 3 years of my upbringing in the Melee community, and then my friend Nolan, I call him a baby. I call him Squid the Cat before he was Squid the Cat, because he'd be doing all these moonwalks, Charlie walks, and all this crazy movement stuff too. So I mean, they were really big influences. And I was like, what, Falcon's a fun character. I want to learn from these guys, and I was enjoying it.
And when I think about stylish Falcons, none obviously comes to mind, but also Bbats, because there was this one game I remember watching at the Bemi tournament series by Rollback Rumble. So you might remember this where it's Bbats doing all these crazy edge cancels on Yoshi's story. Do you remember this at all? Because I can't remember any other details other than that.
That's actually, you're thinking of Salt, actually. Salt, the Falcon player, I believe. Or Bab Activated. That could be who you're
Bab Activated. That's it. Sorry. I apologize to Bbats. That's on me. That's my bad.
Bbats is a homie. But Bab Activated, yeah, Bab's a nut. I'm just going to say that. He is an absolute nut with his movement. I've started taking inspiration from him with his Bab Activated combo videos. Really just pioneering a new age in terms of like Falcon combo video and just what sort of unique concepts, we can do with it. I mean, I love Bab. When I found out about him when someone referred him to me, I was like, wait, this guy's absolutely insane at the game. Like, this dude's sick. So I know the clip exactly you're talking about, and I remember watching it live, and I think I actually was the person that clipped it on Twitch, and and I was like, because like for Benny, actually, even though I wasn't like an official staff member of that tournament, since Jade was actually so tired because they were exhausted, like, and I mean, I know we were really close at the time, but we're even closer now. But like at the time, I was like so concerned about them. It's like, I'm gonna step in and do what I can, and because Jade was so tired that they couldn't even like report the scores on the Smash GG. So I would DM them on Discord, like, what stage they were on, what characters were picked, who won the game. And, I would just tell them this. And, on occasion, we would see something, like, really sick, and I'm like, oh my god, that's so sick, we're clipping this or whatever. But, I basically, I kind of, like, behind the scenes did a lot to really, make sure that, like, one, Jade got through that tournament okay, but then also getting to witness some of that crazy stuff, like the Salt Bab Activated set, which is, in my opinion, that was the best set of the whole entire Benny tournament. I mean, that set was it was absolutely hilarious. It was fun. It's just what you want out of a Falcon Doe and a Melee set. I love that set in particular, so I have a personal bias on that one.
And who would you say is your favorite Captain Falcon to watch?
Oh man, just of all time or just currently?
Well, if you're too nervous to tackle the all-time one, you can go with current because that's fluid. That can change.
It honestly, it's a good question to ask because I kind of take bits and pieces from every Falcon now, per se. If I were to have some comfort picks of choice, or say like which like sort of archetype I fall under the most, I kind of have a thought process of a Wizrobe, a little bit of kind of like a systematic sort of style, or very like, this is how it is sort of style. Like, what you're going to get with a Wizzy. You're going to get your down throw tech chases and your 20 GX stuff. So I'd say like my philosophy or like my archetype per se leans towards a Wizzy, but I always take bits and pieces from Nun, S2J, Squid the Cat. Shout out to Squid the Cat, great kid. Bab Activated. Probably some other folks I'm missing too. All time Silent Spectre. Absolutely love Silent Spectre. Isaiah. I absolutely Isaiah as well. I mean, not just from the documentary. Isaiah was actually super ahead of the game. Bob Money too. My great teacher and mentor, Bob Money, and just a ton of other folks. But definitely, those are just some of the first folks that come to mind in terms of just Falcon stuff that I've learned.
And now we're starting to get forward a little bit, inching forward towards the present, but at a certain point you're saying to yourself, I don't want to just be a competitor. And maybe it was also you saying, maybe I'm not always going to be cut out for trying to shoot for best in the region or best in the world. What did lead you to saying, I could do other things around Melee, not just go and compete and try to do better than 2-2, that sort of thing?
That's a good question. I want to say, I mean, it's actually interesting how it came about. I mean, I'd always had like a semi, like sort of connection with TOing a bit. So the bi-weekly tournament series that, a local tournament series that we TO'd called Phoenix Underground, Shoutouts to Trevor York, the founder of Phoenix Underground and Phoenix Uprising, because I played Smash 4 as well at the time. We initially would only host a Smash 4 weeklies, for like the first couple months, because I was also into Smash 4 as well, and I kind of pushed the idea because I lived really close to the store. I lived 5 minutes from the store to this day, just like this small venue. NorCal folks will know what I'm talking about too, that are listening to the podcast. But I really pushed the idea for Smash 4 folks at first, and then Malcolm and I brought a Melee setup one time to one of the Phoenix Uprising Smash 4 weeklies, and Trevor kind of pulled me aside and was like, he respected it too at the time. It was, it was like, maybe we'll talk about this sometime. And then, we got into a conversation a bit, and it was like, what, let's start running, a bi-weekly there. It started as a weekly, but it turned into bi-weekly. But, we started out with Phoenix, and then Phoenix Underground kind of came about like that. I will say shouts to Malcolm too. He still takes credit for giving the name too. I will always give him credit for making the name, but that's kind of how it started about it. So I had like a brief gist in TOing at first, but in terms of me actually taking the reins and getting like a bigger role, or actually like doing tournament organizing stuff, it wasn't until around late 2018 when Phoenix Underground started struggling with a lack of entrance and activity, and I was starting to kind of get much better as a player at the time too, to where I can attract some folks. And the person I was TOing at the time, Kai, shoutouts to Kai, she was the person that took over for Trevor when Trevor got like a higher up job. I forgot where, but he basically, he had a higher up job and he couldn't TO anymore. But Kai, she said, there's a chance that it'll close down or whatever unless we get more activity. And I just thought to myself, this is like my only consistent source of, to compete in tournaments. So I was like, what? I'm just going to put everything I can. So I would bring 2 setups every week. I bring 2 CRTs and 2 game cubes every week. I'd market events on the NorCal Melee Facebook page. And I just did whatever I could. And we started out, I think, like 8 people entering at the time too. And it slowly grew. We would have players like Umarth would come in, who was ranked top 100 in 2019. Keba, who's ranked in NorCal. Who else? Rise, who's ranked in Wisconsin, started coming to these. I kind of just put myself out there and really marketed it as much as possible, both as one, my skill as a player too, because I was starting to get really good at the time, or pretty good at the time. But then also, just learning the stuff with tournament organizing, and that goes all along with it too. I started really kind of diving into detail too, and I would start seeding tournaments and such.
What was the first few tournaments like for you seeding?
It was actually pretty. It's tough to say. I mean, I would say it was kind of. It was kind of just I just kind of seeded just my local folks, and just who I knew at first. I didn't think too much about like diving deep into research at the time. But I think what really helped is we had this thing called Garpiar. That would like keep track of like everyone's like tournament statistics and stuff like that from like the recent tournaments for like the past 2 or 3 months, I'd say. It was around that time. So I would always look at Garpiar as a reference, and then Kai would do like the preliminary seeding at first, and then be like, hey, can you look at this? She'd ask me to look at this. And then I get some opinions from Umarth, because he would attend a bunch of stuff a lot. And then I kind of just learned from there. And I would always double check with like just other eyes at first, to make sure, that this is A-okay or whatever. But I mean, that really is kind of how like the early stages of my TOing stuff, if you will, started to take off. And mainly just started off with that. But it wasn't really until when quarantine hit, and specifically when Rollback hit, that I really kind of started taking TOing a bit more seriously.
With the quarantine hitting and such, and now you can't do anything in person anymore, and online was delay-based, as it always had been. and everyone is now having to go on it and going, well, I mean, it's kind of okay if you live within like a block of each other, right? I mean, but it wasn't until Rollback when everybody was going, okay, so this is doable. This is very doable. This is really good, especially compared to other games. We really do have it great. Thank you, Fizzy. Thank you, Slippy. So what was it like for you, though, at first, before Rollback, and then you can segue into how you started to get more involved with online tournaments?
So this ties into actually the end of 2019. So it's actually a good lead in. At the end of 2019, I had a really hard school semester actually, and I couldn't really attend many tournaments at all or TO or anything like that. I was kind of just stuck on the sidelines, so I would only be like a Facebook event promoter too, and I create the Smash GGs and whatnot. And it really sucked too because, like, at least for me on a personal standpoint, I was like the happiest I had ever been. I had actually been taking a lot of wins off of PR players at the time too. I was like, I would just say, just in my honest opinion, I was probably close to getting ranked in NorCal, which was one of my goals just of that year too, or just like, I was really kind of like dead set on that, just like as a competitor, because I was starting to attend stuff outside of Phoenix Underground. But when I couldn't attend stuff too, and when Kai made me aware that just like financially, despite how successful the tournaments were running, it just was becoming not financially feasible for tournaments to run anymore. So Phoenix Underground closed down. I believe in late December. I believe December 30th is when they made the announcement of 2019. That it's actually really ironic because I just like just scrolling wherever I saw that, I just kind of saw that post, and it hit home with me too because I had been a part of that tournament series for 4 years. So like Phoenix Underground came and went and had a good 4-year run, and I was looking, for probably the first a few months of 2020 before the pandemic hit and we were in quarantine, just looking for a venue for 925 Melee to find a home, just like to just find a local scene for us to run tournaments again. For also myself to have a consistent source to compete in tournaments again, because just with my own personal living situation, it was really difficult for me to get outside of a 925 Melee. I was always kind of stuck, per se, so I never really had the best of accessibility. And we were actually really close. We had actually secured a venue, and we were really close to hosting our first bi-weekly there. But then the pandemic hit and basically spoiled all those plans.
Ooh.
And so, it really sucked because, I was really excited, I want to say it was a couple days from making the official announcement that we were going to host that tournament series. I can just spoil the name. It was going to be called Wired because it was going to be at, a gaming cafe called the LimeWire Gaming Cafe. So it was, I was going to call it Wired. And, we were so close, and everything like that, it was going to be a great thing. But, it was really unfortunate, that those plans just kind of fell through and never really materialized. But I was pretty dormant for a while in the early stages of the online netplay scene. And then Power Kevin too, who at that point, we had been really close friends, consistent practice partners, but also just like good friends. We thought, why don't we run start a tournament series for 925 Melee. So and this leads to the origins of my own tournament series that's still going on today, called Get in the Box. Now, you're wondering where that name comes from. That name does not come from a reference from Jack in the Box, as the branding or like the graphics of it looks like it. Shouts to Midnight Blue for the graphics, by the way. Great person. But it actually comes from an inner 925 Melee inside joke about a player named goes by the tag of Odie. Shout out to Vance, who had like a really excited dog or whatever, a little bit too excited and a little bit too sweet, and he would like jump on folks while at fests, and have like disrupted when people were just trying to play Melee. And his dad would always say, we call him G-Man. G-Man would say, get in the box, Robert, get in the box, Robert, because, he was just being a little too rowdy as a dog. And, we kind of just had to play on words like, let's name it as that, as kind of like a nod to our to our local scene. And it was very small at first because it was delay based, and also it was only like 925 folks or whatever. But then I partnered with Trey the Trashman to start streaming the tournaments, like the tournaments as well. It was still kind of a struggle at the time too, because I personally despise delay based. I did not like delay based at all. And I got so frustrated with it at times. That's partially why I kind of dove my feet more into TOing, because it just, delay based just wasn't real Melee. I can safely say that now, and I think a lot of folks would agree. But, it's like, kind of a combination of me hating delay based per se, and then also, and then also just seeing that I still have to provide for the scene, for my local community, really kind of sowed the seeds for what would be to come when Rollback emerged.
So what was your own reaction? Like, I remember seeing that green slippy face the first day that it got dropped and introducing Rollback Netcode. I was like, what's that? Had you ever heard of Rollback Netcode before?
I actually did, because I knew some folks that did traditional fighting games too, because like my local community actually were pretty well versed in fighting games. I was a Melee guy. We had some couple Melee folks that dove into Tekken, like Power Kevin himself and a couple other people. So we knew what Rollback is, or like Guilty Gear 2, which had Rollback. So I knew what it was, and I was actually like, I was kind of fever dreaming of it. I was like, what would happen if Melee had Rollback? I don't know when, like in the beginning stages of quarantine, but I was thinking, what would happen if, please get Rollback, please do Rollback or whatever. And I was like, if Rollback comes back, I'll start playing again. And then on the day, I think it was June 22nd, 2020, Rollback dropped. And Jade and I had just started to like get pretty close with each other at the time too. I started talking to Jade, because we knew each other for like a couple years, but we started kind of talking a bit more, just like as friends at the time. We're not really TOing yet, but we Rollback dropped, and we both messaged each other. It's like we were like, oh my god, it's like Christmas Day in June. We were just like so ecstatic, just like DMing each other about experiences. We were just, we were so ecstatic. That was like the first thing we did. We messaged each other when it dropped.
Wait, were you finishing up that thought, or I don't know if I understood.
No, I'm done. No, I'm done. That's all I needed to say on that.
Okay, so that led you to get in the box. You trying to continue to push that forward in the new Rollback era, and then you started to get into other events, because we were talking about Rollback Rumble earlier, and you can lead with that one if you want to, or some of the other tournaments that you helped to make happen. How did you go from doing, I'm going to do my own thing for the local scene, to I'm going to do way more than that?
I want to say it started when I partnered with Trey the Trashman with Get in the Box. You know who Trey the Trashman is, correct?
No, I don't.
Okay, well, Trey the Trashman is a Sacramento Sheik player and tournament organizer. He's got a great stream as well, too. He was starting to like really kind of make waves in the scene at the time, too, with the stream. And I was like, hey, Trey, do you want to just partner up? Because Get in the Box was kind of struggling at the time. It's like, do you want to stream this event or whatever? And he agreed to do it. And then like when Rollback started getting big or whatever, and he was like, hey, do you want like graphics for this? And I was like, yeah, sure. And then we hit up our good friend Midnight Blue, and he started and then like we kind of branded the whole thing, kind of, and had like all the graphics and everything like that. We made it very official. And it was pretty small at first, but it wasn't really until we thought, like, since Rollback is a thing, why don't we make it free to enter? So there's not going to be any prize for anything like that. Well, let's make it free to enter, and all of North America is allowed. And we were able to kind of be the first sort of tournament series to really do that, because all the stuff at the time was a pay to enter, stuff like that. So we were kind of one of the first bits to really kind of appeal that sort of audience, where folks were like, I don't really want to pay for this, it's tough trying to find a job or whatever and stuff like that. Wanted to make it as accessible as possible, and we successfully managed to do that. And at first, these tournaments were actually incredibly stacked. We actually had we had Justice enter, we had Umarth enter, Cabot entered some. I think who else? Poppy. And then I think this is probably this. I still hold this special to this day. Hungrybox entered one game in the box, which to me it was just out of this world. And I think that's when I realized I was like, wait, I can really do something with this TOing thing. If I'm just having randomly HBox, it's funny how it happened. It's like I randomly just see HBox and I'm like, wait, is this the real HBox? Because he was unseated at the time because it was doing the seeding. And I was like, it said Liquid Hungrybox. I checked the Smash GG profile, and I see the picture. And I checked the results, and I was like, holy shit, what is this? And the first thing I did, I DM'd Trey the trash man. And I was like, hey, Hungrybox just entered this tournament. And he was like, what? And then I DM'd Jade right after too, because we were starting to get pretty close at the time. And both Jade and I were just like losing our minds. We're like, what's going on here? But that was like, it was really cool for that tournament in particular. And also, as a small note too, and a personal note, is that I got third in that tournament too. I had 64 people, which was really cool too. So as the TO, I also did pretty well too. Only I got double eliminated by my 925 friend and homie Umarth, but Umarth was able to give HBox a really respectable showing at that tournament too. Getting HBox to pop off, so I'd say it's a good accomplishment. If HBox pops off on you, that means you're a threat to him, I guess.
That is very cool that you were pulling a little bit of a mini Codoran, right? Because that's sort of in my mind, the meme. Who's a TO and also a really good melee player? And the first person that comes to mind for me is Codoran, because Hungrybox has run his own events before, and Mango's run his own events before, but like Codoran's like running TMT pretty much, or is one of the big TOs for the Training Mode Tuesday. So you were able to do a little bit of a Codoran move there. That's really cool, Nathan. Third place out of 64? You have to, unfortunately, get double eliminated. But you did very well. That's so cool to hear that. Do you feel like you're just you still have room to grow, that you have a ceiling that you don't see where the top of that is in terms of how much better of a player you can be, or are you just more excited by TO stuff right now?
I still firmly believe that I'm a player at heart. It's what I've been the longest. I mean, almost 7 years as a player. So I still see myself as a player at heart. But the TOing stuff really grew on me a bit. And I'm mostly focusing on the TOing stuff right now because I see a lot of just networking opportunities that can give me a chance to actually play those top players. And I guess like to drop some insight of like some of this networking stuff that's helped is I've been able to get the outreach to play Ben, the up and coming Sheik player from Minnesota. I actually got to warm him up for SCL, and then S2J actually. So initially, I TO S2J's subscriber bi-weekly tournament series called Johnny Stock Wednesdays, and I actually got to warm him up to prepare him for Wizzy, actually. I need 3-up Wizzy. So, I mean, just through my TOing and my own personal networking, I've been able to get opportunities to play these top players where they see me as like a TO at first, or just a seer at first, or a commentator at first, because I do commentary as well. But then they realize like, wait, this guy is actually like legitimately good at the game, and and I tell them the wins I have, and it's like, wait, this guy is actually like, he's got something there. I mean, maybe I'm tuning my own horn a little bit, but that's kind of like the approach I went with it. Is that like they'll see me at first glance, like, oh, this guy is cool, he's a homie, maybe I'll play him, but then they'll actually realize, the work I actually put in as a player, and they're like, wait, maybe there's something more to it. But I don't know. That's just my sort of just like perspective and my viewpoint of how I've approached the whole thing too as a player, and just kind of how I've continued to approach it just like beyond too, just with like some of the opportunities I keep getting given, or just like, keep reaching out to folks.
So let's not beat around the bush anymore. We have teased this too long, Nathan. How did you come to start helping out with the Rollback Rumble tournament series?
I think that was the big elephant in the room. I had at the time, throughout the summer of 2020, Jade and I, we have like we had grown to have like a very nice personal relationship because we share a bunch of other things in common. Really, I mean it's just like between us two. I'll keep that between us and what we share in common. But we would always talk just like throughout the summer, or whatever. And Rollback Rumble wasn't really like a thing yet. The Jade basically like went on a bit of like a Jade, Brandon, and all them were kind of like on a TOing hiatus per se. Like when Rollback first came out, like after LACS, I think they didn't TO a tournament for like 2 or 3 months. And, during that time, Jade and I we do so many things together. We'd play Generals together. We'd play Fall Guys together, because that was when Fall Guys got really big. Among Us, when Among Us started to kind of get big. Shout outs to Amongst Us too. That's kind of like our core group of best, great friends now. That's kind of, just Jade and I just kind of just did a bunch of things together. We just found out we shared a lot in common. And when the first SCL season happened, and Rollback Rumble was the qualifier for it, Jade made a post on Twitter that was it was like, I was like, hey, we need seeders to help out with seeing these tournaments. And I was still primarily just like a competitor at the time. But I saw that no one was taking it, so I DM'd Jade on Twitter. I was like, hey, I'm not to help out. I have some seeding experience, whatever. Jade, and I got into a private call, and I think there was one other person with her at the time. But basically, Jade basically just handed me the keys to go see this tournament. So I stayed up really late. I did all the manual research on every player that registered, and just I seeded it to my best of my ability. I hit up Brandon Home and Waffles the next day because he does seeding stuff as well, and he said yeah, this looks pretty good. And then we just ran with it from there. And I competed in it as well too because I was still primarily a competitor, so I was doing TOing and competing on the side. And then just for future SCL season 1 qualifiers, I did the same thing, pretty much. I wanted to kind of get into commentary a bit at the time too, but that didn't really materialize because I think I don't think Brandon really knew me well enough at the time, or I think he was still kind of going with what was comfortable too. I don't think he really, at least at the time, just didn't think just too much of me too, because I was just kind of I was just a small fish helping out at first.
Oh, I thought you were going to quote Ken there for a second.
Or what was the quote? Just
it's small fish in the pond, small fish in the ocean, something like that in the
documentary. Oh, yeah. That's basically what I was. I was still a small fish in the ocean, so I'm sure Brandon was he was like, hey, Nathan's helping out with the seeding. But then Jade was the one that really I kept closely in communication with. And when I kind of hit a really rough patch, with competing, I basically, I was having just a rough time in just 2020 as a whole, like many other folks have. And it hit a really low point in early December. I basically broke down. I mean, I basically was on the verge of actually leaving the entire community as a whole, because I was just, just quarantine, and stress and everything like that. The loneliness of not seeing friends and stuff like that. It really started to catch up to me and take a toll on me. And Jade and I did talk to, and basically they were there. Basically, basically just I'd say one of the lowest points of my life. Some of the darkest days I've ever had. They basically were there. And they allowed me to talk, what I was feeling and stuff like that. And I basically I didn't really want to compete. I didn't even think of a thought of competing. And I was actually they had one last, I think, LACS, because LACS was coming out, the Ludwig tournament. LACS was coming, and they had one last, I think, qualifier for it for Rollback Rumble. And what was it? And I actually, what was it? I was this close to not even deciding to see the tournament. I think I posted a message like, hey, I don't feel like seeing today, go find someone else. But then, like, something in me just, I don't know, changed my mind. I deleted the message, and I deleted the message like, hey, still on the seed. I didn't think too much of it at the time, because I was still, like, really just distraught, just as a person as a whole. I just wasn't really happy. I was like, okay, I'll do this. I'll just do it and leave. And then Jade hit me up actually about 5 days of mail. So to kind of go off topic here, because that eventually leads into like the further rollback rumble stuff. I mean, I have to kind of change gears a bit and talk about 5 days of mail, because that will eventually lead into rollback rumble. But then Jade hit me up about wanting to do seeding for 5 days of melee, because I found out Jade was the bracket director for it, and it was just a very neat, wonderful experience. We had a very experienced TO crew, I found out too, and it just made me feel very welcomed. And I at first I wasn't invited to like the official staff server. Jade, I forgive Jade for this to this day, because they were doing so much at the time, because they were also doing stuff for Gallant Melee Open at the time. But they were too swamped, and they forgot to give me the official like staff Discord server that everyone was in. So I found out on Twitter that they were having this after party or whatever, and I was like, wait, I see this tournament, I should be a part of it. It was kind of like this fear of missing out sort of thing. I was like really sad, because I made an impact on this event. So I scrambled around, and I DM'd Jade at first, but it was unfortunate because Jade was just way too busy too, and I don't really fault Jade much for that, because at least at the time, I wouldn't say we were on bad terms, but just like I was on a low point too, and I think Jade probably just wanted me to figure myself out, just like on a personal standpoint. Just my opinion from what I saw. And I hit up Dark Gen X, and Dark Gen X got me into the Discord server, and I wound up being there, and I got to talk to a bunch of folks too. We played some games and stuff like that. I think we played like Among Us or whatever. I got to talk to some folks, and I finally get to talk about this publicly too. I wanted to talk about this. I actually have never even told Jade this day, and I've wanted to tell this to them personally, but I think it's good that it's out in the public now. The Discord call that changed my life, or at least my Melee life, happened on that night on the after party, and it was a call between me, Matt.Zeb, Bonfire 10, Spinda, and Newt. It was just the 5 of us, and we were just shooting the shit. We were just talking, and I was talking about like imposter syndrome and stuff like that at the time, because I was thinking to myself, do I really deserve to be here? I just saw guys' skill levels, and I just seeded them properly, and I was just kind of my mindset at the time. And Matt.Zeb gave me a lot of incredible advice. If Matt, if you're listening, I really appreciate that, because I think it's gone a long way. But basically, after that call, it was almost like a domino effect. And Matt.Zeb would watch we actually watched LACS 3 together in a Discord call, Matt.Zeb, and I think a couple other folks, a couple European TOs jumped in. And this leads into Gallant Melee Open, where actually Kevin Deere, who's been on the podcast before, he joined the call, and I was thinking about it too, because I wanted to commentate more stuff. And Jade had actually hit me up to seed that tournament already before even Gallant Melee Open was announced. So, like, I knew I was aware of it, too. And I was like, what? And I found out it was Deer that was running it. And I was like, I asked Deer in the call, I was like, hey, can we talk in private for a sec? I was like, hey, I'm interested in commentating. And Deer was like, hey, have you talked to Jade? Because, Jade's, like, kind of the bracket director and stuff like that. And I basically, I still think to this day this is like the best thing I came across. It was like, I'm actually seeding your tournament, and then I'm actually seeding your tournament, and then Jade's also one of my closest friends. And I think I kind of like gave, I don't know what from Deer's perspective. I'd love to hear Deer's perspective on this at some point. I think at least from my assumption, I I think in his mind, I was like, okay, yeah, this guy's a trustworthy source if Jade has already talked to him. So, like, it kind of landed from there. I still believe to this day, also too. Maybe I'm not giving myself enough credit or whatever, but I still believe to this day that Jade had a very important influence in me getting that gig, in particular. Whether they want to admit it or not, I still wonder about this to this day, and I'd love to hear Jade talk about that at some point. But I am convinced that they gave me, they kind of had an influence in me, probably me getting that gig a bit, because they were starting to become a really trusted source and a bigger name in the community. As well as I think they also kind of rigged the stream kill for me. I'll also say that because they gave me some sets that definitely favored my commentary style, or at least, they gave me like a Falcon set because they knew I'm a Falcon specialist. So, I noticed those little things. I don't know how truthful it is. It may be just like a placebo effect or whatever, or just like a coincidence. But I still go by the theory that Jade pulled some strings to make that happen. I don't know how true it is, but this is just my opinion of what I thought. And that eventually leads to the Rollback Rumble stuff. But that's like the general rundown, and then that eventually led to when the Rollback Rumble weeklies began again with NA West, where I started seeding again because I'd already done it for them in the past. And then since I had some commentary experience under my belt, I basically had more credibility, and Brandon kind of trusted me on the mic, to start commentating. And I got to commentate the opening of Top 8 for Rollback Rumble NA West, the first one. And then I got to commentate the ending of Rollback Rumble NA West, the second one. I got to commentate the ending of Top 8. So it was pretty cool how that happened. It was almost like a domino effect, really, of how that just all came about.
And it all started with a friend of the program. Matt.Zeb has been on as well. And yes, you're right, Deer's been on. It's been so cool to talk to those people, but it is people like Deer and Matt.Zeb and Jade, people who are quote unquote established, or however you want to phrase it, but just it's so interesting how when you're talking to someone that somehow through the spirit of Melee, through fate, however you want to phrase it, that it just pulls you back in somehow, because it's a very serious thing that you were considering about. I don't think I want to be involved with this anymore, and that's valid. I'm not trying to say that that's ludicrous or anything. That's very valid of you to feel that way. But then it just also somehow magnetically pulled you back in. And it's really cool to hear that it continues to confirm to me like how awesome people like Jade, Deer, Matt.Zeb, like people who are in this community that matter, they're also nice. The people who matter are nice. That's what it seems to be more often than not. And it's really, really cool. I also feel bad. I just want to shout out the Puff and Peach player who were going to be commentated by you, but then Jade allegedly would have said to them, no, you're not on stream. Actually, this Falcon Ditto is going to be on stream. And the Falcon Ditto players were like, what?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe something along the lines of that. I don't know how true, but I will always... That'll be a question to ask Jade yourself. I would love to know this answer this day, or I'll ask Jade myself at some point. And it would not surprise me if they refuse to say anything about it, just out of respect. But
allegedly, theory crafting.
Allegedly,
right?
I'm just I'm suspicious of it. Just as best friends, I was very suspect. I was like, they really gave me a Falcon set here. Like, it was kind of, it raised my eyebrows. I was like, okay, I see you, Jade. I see you kind of put me in this position here. And I guess, and it went really well, I guess, and it just kind of spawned from there.
And so now we're here. It's mid-May, and it's so interesting to me. June has a lot of interesting things coming up, but it's going to be 1 year since Rollback on June 22nd in about a month and a half from now. And then in December, it'll be officially Melee being 20 years old, which is just so crazy to think about.
I can't believe that.
So when it comes to the present Melee and the rest of this year, what comes to mind for you specifically?
Very good question. I'd say really, it's a very good question. I would say it's just really just continue to do what I do. I mean, now that I'm done with school.
Yeah, let's
for this
go.
semester. Yeah, I'm very happy about that. But once school concluded, I mean, I can really kind of just put my time a lot more into Melee. I mean, I had intended, I feel like I'm in a better like mental capacity and mindset or whatever to where I can compete again, where I feel comfortable and I feel like there's some growth there. I have some good resources around me too, and folks, S2J is open to having me take lessons from him for free because I've done some stuff with him in the past. I have like more connections in and outreach now to other top players too. So from a competitor's perspective, it's great because I feel like I have more resources than I ever did before to really just help me grow as a player. And then like on the TO side, I mean, it's kind of just keep doing what you're doing. I still, there's still definitely some stuff to work out with the Rollback Rumble, gaming folks too. But it's all just it's a good. I'm in a pretty good place now. Now like I can actually now that I'm actually talking about it and saying out loud, I can say in retrospect I'm in a really good situation right now. Sometimes you need to take a look back on it. That I have Jade basically who I talk to and gives me advice on a daily basis. Both with just TOing stuff and networking stuff, but also just life. Brandon, whenever he's not busy, he's just a busy dude. He'll still keep me in the loop on stuff. I just talked to Deer as of the recording of this podcast. I talked to Deer a bit today about some stuff as well as Jade too. So it's things are moving along too, and it's pretty nice. And I'm just part of me is just really excited, but also just anxious because I still just don't really know where I'm gonna go with this. Really, I don't know. But it's really neat to just see where it goes.
People like Matt.Zeb who are able to get big old premier jobs in other esports brackets divisions or industries, whatever the heck. But Matt.Zeb's making all the money or however you want to phrase it over at Call of Duty, and it'll make you happy to know that Matt.Zeb did not put a whole lot of purposeful thought into all the years that he grew the New England Melee scene as a TO and as a head TO, and then someone who organizes all these different tournament series and the New England Melee circuit, all that kind of stuff. Wasn't really necessarily thinking about what's this going to do for me long-term financially or career-wise, or why am I actually doing all this kind of stuff? Didn't seem to put a whole lot of thought into that based on our conversation, but then at a certain point was able to leverage that into a job at Smash GG and then over at Call of Duty now as I forget the title, but anyway, good for Matt.Zeb. There are success stories like that out there, and then you have all the people in Melee who are spurred on by the love of the game, the love of the community, all the passion that's here and that exists, and I hope that you continue to feel that as well, that you can say to yourself, it's fun to be paid potentially in all of this at a certain point, but that also it's fulfilling in other ways just besides financially speaking. So I am not really one to hand out advice or anything. All I'm trying to say is that it sounds like, to your point, you're in a better place than where you were in December. And of course, that's just a season of life. You'll have another time, I'm sure, just like I will, we all do, where it's kind of not feeling so hot now, and I'm feeling better, I'm feeling not so hot now. That you'll just continue to have people that matter to you, that are close to you, that can just speak to you while you're going through all that kind of stuff, whether it's good or bad, because the community aspect is very, very important. I've come to understand that more and more myself. So in the future, it sounds like you have a lot of cool things ahead of you. And if I see your name in bracket, if I see you on stream at potentially, well, I don't know if there's going to be an SCL Season 3, but hey, if I see you and your Falcon going up against somebody else on stream, I'll be rooting for you. And then hopefully hearing you on comms, because that would also be cool. Or just knowing that, I know I'm watching this tournament that was seeded by NathanSandwich. So you have your hand in pretty much everything. That's very, very cool.
Yeah, kind of a man of many traits. I've realized I'm definitely a guy that I do a lot of things is one thing I've realized now too. And I think to tag along your point too, I think the community aspect is honestly why I think I stayed around really. And just the wonderful people really that I met. I mean, a lot of people come to mind. Jade probably the first one to come to mind. Power Kevin, Brandon, so many other people, Bob Money, stuff like that. Those folks really come to mind and made me realize, there's a reason to stay. And I think that's really why I kept going to, and then that eventually led to me just meeting a bunch of other wonderful people. And it also, to tag on your comment too, I mean, we'll see, but I really appreciate the kind words on that too. On the, just like, whatever I do, whether it's commentating, I seed a tournament or actually competing. So, I'll probably be around somewhere in some capacity, I guess.
Exactly. So let's go ahead and give you an opportunity here to offer any more closing thoughts that you have. Tell the people where they can find you, all that kind of fun stuff.
All right. Well, you can follow me on Twitter at NathanSandwich on Twitter. And then also, if you want to follow me on Twitch, you can, it is twitch.tv/NathanSandwich. I kind of just do a lot of things. I tried to stream a bit more as well. Really just kind of just doing just a bunch of stuff. I mean, I'm just curious to just what the future has to offer. I mean, I personally just don't know where I'll be at, where I'll be at by the end of the summer or even just like in the next month. It's just, a bunch of things going on. I'm just curious to just see where it goes.
And NathanSandwich, I wanted to thank you one more time. Thank you so much for being here with me on Bottom of the Smash Mountain.
As always, too. Thank you. Just thank you for having me on, and also thank you to anyone that's helped me along the way. Really, I really appreciate it. It's made quarantine just a lot more, a lot more feasible. So you know who you are, and I thank you a lot for it.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Bottom of the Smash Mountain. Before you get going, please like the video. Where are you going? You left. Well, for those of you who are still here, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment your favorite part of the interview. Hey, is there a timestamps person that wants to post them? Because for now, the only thing that I'm doing for timestamps is the start of the interview and the end of the interview. You're welcome, YouTube. I couldn't be bothered. At least for now, I couldn't be bothered. So if you also want to listen to this podcast in its entirety, I have exclusive podcast audio that is separate from the audio that I post here onto YouTube. So if that's something that's interesting to you, you can check out Bottom of the Smash Mountain on your favorite podcasting platform. Seriously. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all kinds of podcasts. So thank you for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.